station, 1370 WOCA.
Ocala.
All right, 5 minutes after 11 o'clock. Thank you for tuning in. Tomorrow is Veterans Day, and we're remembering our veterans today and tomorrow. Well, we always remember our veterans. I always like to think that this station, this town, in fact, is very, very veteran-friendly. And if you are a vet, thank you so much for your service. We salute you, and we'll never be able to thank you enough. I wanted to tell you a real quick story, though, before we go to our guest, and I think it'll parlay or dovetail nicely with her topic. Robin, your son, when he was in school, probably junior high or high school, was given an assignment to interview some people, and one of the people he chose to interview was my dad.
Yeah, he did.
And my dad, who has since passed away, sat down with him. And so you were going through your garage, you were going through some of your old stuff you were telling me, and you found this report that your son had done. Mm-hmm. And you showed it to me because you knew I'd be interested in the fact that part of that report was an interview that TJ, your son, did with my dad.
Yep. Asking
him about World War II. I never knew some of the things in that report. I never knew that my father, who was a tank driver, I knew that, but I never knew that they were in some kind of a battle in which only 5 of them survived.
Yeah.
My father and 4 others were the only ones who survived one particular battle. Never knew this. Mm-mm. Never knew this. What we know now about post-traumatic stress disorder, I don't know if my father would shrug this off if he were hearing me say this right now, but I bet, not that I know anything about this, but I bet there was some of that for him and the other 4 guys. And in fact, I don't even think you need to be in a battle. The way I understand PTSD, you can just witness something.
Yeah.
Something horrible like that.
What they say.
Dr. Kathleen Sales has been with us before.
Yes.
She's a retired psychiatrist with 40 years experience in treating PTSD and other diagnoses. She worked with Marines returning home from Vietnam. She worked at Camelot, which is a residential school for disturbed children and adolescents. She's an award-winning author, and you might remember the book Saving Superman. Mm-hmm. This is a sequel to that. This was called Attack from Within. It is a story of recovery from war-induced stress, and it is a novel, but she's taking her expertise and allowing us to understand some of the things that she understands through a novel, which is not a bad way because we pay more attention to novels, I think, than to textbooks, etc. We're not likely to pick up a textbook unless we're studying something. Dr. Kathleen Sales, good morning, doctor.
Good morning, Larry and Robin. How are you this morning?
Good. How are you doing?
Well, I've got a little bit of a hoarse throat, so give me a chance to take a drink of water if I get there, huh?
Oh, good. I hope you're okay. Where are you right now? Where are you calling from?
I'm down in Knoxville, Tennessee. Actually, that's up from you, isn't it?
Yeah, Knoxville, Tennessee. Well, thank you.
Beautiful morning here.
Thank you for being on the air with us today. When we talk about PTSD, who suffers from PTSD? Is it always soldiers, or could somebody who witnesses an accident or a crime, could they be suffering from it too?
Well, the interesting statistic is that 7.8% of the American population will suffer from PTSD at some point in their life. So all sorts of things can cause it. I mean, a traffic accident, a life-threatening illness or injury. I mean, a criminal attack, a sexual attack, and of course, going to war. But yeah, you can get it from witnessing, particularly if the people that are involved are just people who are very close to you.
Can I ask about the word disorder? Post-traumatic stress, couldn't it be another S, a syndrome? Why is it a why is it a disorder?
I can't answer that question. That's a choice that's made by the people who make up these diagnoses.
Oh, okay.
I just would like, you could just call it PTS, and it would be fine with me.
Okay. Well, I guess I was trying to get your opinion about it, though. Do you think it is a disorder?
Well, it definitely is a physical problem because the stress tends to turn on the sympathetic nervous system, our fight or flight system. And that gets turned on for long enough. The stress chemicals it produces actually damage the brain. So you can actually see over time changes in the brain.
Oh, really?
The hippocampus that's responsible for memory gets smaller. and the amygdala that's responsible for negative emotions gets bigger.
So does that? So do the people that are going through dementia? Is that might be what's going on with them?
Well, dementia tends to attack a different part of the brain first, and it's a progressive disease. Post-traumatic stress disorder can be turned around and reversed if you can get control of the sympathetic nervous system and then rework the memories that have been laid down because of that impairment as traumatic memories, which are prone to flashbacks and nightmares and stuff.
I want to be sure that we're fair to the novel that you have written. So let's talk.
Yes, get back to
let's
that.
talk about the story, and then maybe we can talk a little bit more about PTSD in general. Attack from Within. Tell me the story.
Okay, Attack from Within is a sequel to Saving Superman. So, true to his East Tennessee roots, Pete grows up and goes into the Navy and becomes a Navy corpsman and goes over in Vietnam and actually spends a year out with the Marines. And he was doing fine until the very last mission when his squad was ambushed at night, and he has a huge, large hole in his memory as to exactly what happened to him. Somehow, he survived. But then he ends up with a general discharge, and finds himself back in San Diego. And he's confused and upset and not quite sure how he's going to explain this to his World War II veteran father. He doesn't even do too well explaining it to his friend Red, who is a Marine that was properly discharged. And he stares at the papers and said, "What happened?" When Pete tells him, he shakes his head and said, "You were a good corpsman. If you got discharged with a general discharge, you must have gone crazy." And that has Pete upset. So he doesn't spend a lot of time around his vet friends or around his father. He takes off for Detroit to get a job. But he doesn't realize Detroit's about to erupt into one of the worst riots ever. He doesn't realize the violence that's going on in the streets between the Black Panthers and the cops and the drug dealers. And so he walks right into a new set of violent situation, and that, of course, triggers him. So now he's dealing with three battles, really. One to stay alive in Detroit, one to fight off the PTSD, and the third one to try to remember what happened back in Vietnam.
Wow. Now, your understanding from your psychiatrist background would enable you to create the character Pete so that he not only has PTSD, but how PTSD manifests itself. So that's what we get to see, right? We get to see how it manifests itself. In movies, they typically show like a Vietnam veteran has a flashback, and then he thinks the waitress is an attacking. You know how that's what they'll show in the movies.
Yeah.
That's somebody who's innocent. Somebody who's innocent.
Happen.
That does happen.
But more commonly, when people have flashbacks, they withdraw. They try to get away from people. They try to get someplace safe, someplace quiet. And they don't really want any input unless it's from someone that they know and trust implicitly. But they really would just want to withdraw. So your best bet is if someone is crouched into the fetal position and hiding, you just let them be for a while. Give them some time to stay.
And this book is really an irony in itself, because in your first book you had Pete as a very, very young boy who met a soldier with PTSD, and now he's going through it himself.
Well, Pete's family has fallen apart because of PTSD. His father being the World War II veteran, and his mother having been involved in the criminal attack. She'd been holding the family together, and when she fell apart, the whole family fell apart. So when you first meet Pete, he's on runaway there, and he runs into this homeless vet who's able to help him and his whole family. So that's the beginning story. But there's also a medical history behind that, in that people who have enough problems in their childhood are more prone to develop PTSD. So that sets Pete up. He doesn't know that. Nobody knows that. But
Doctor, we need to take a little break. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you right there. Dr. Kathleen Sales is our guest. Her book is called Attack from Within, a story of recovery from war-induced stress and PTSD is part of this discussion, as well as, of course, the story of the book. We'll be right back.
The weather is brought to you by myfwc.com. Safe boating is no accident. Clouds will limit sunshine today. There'll be a couple of showers and a thunderstorm in the area, especially during the morning hours. The high 72 to 76. And clear to partly cloudy skies tonight. The overnight low 50 in a few inland spots. Near 60 along the coast where there may still be a shower early on. Tomorrow, mostly sunny, high 75 to 79. For Wednesday, mostly sunny, high 76 to 80. From the Florida Weather Center, I'm meteorologist Joe Lundberg.
You've got a garden and we've got a show for you called You've Got a Garden with your host, Master Gardener Carol Ann Baldwin. Carol Ann answers your questions about your flowers, your veggies, your grass, your trees, even questions about your bugs. And she's only on WOCA, so don't miss Carol Ann Baldwin and You've Got a Garden each Tuesday from 9 a.m. to 10 a.m. right here on WOCA The Source.
Hey, I'm Gary. And I'm Eric. Did you know that Red Eye Radio is on WOCA The Source every night from 2 to 6 a.m. and it's live?
That's right. No tape shows here.
We know that the news doesn't sleep.
And neither do we. So we're here with you live from 2 till 6 a.m. every weekday. Call us 866-90-RED-EYE. So join me, Gary McNamara.
And me, Eric Harley, every weeknight to discuss the latest in news and entertainment.
Right here on WOCA The Source.
Hey, Matt, I know Sunrise Automotive does auto stuff, but I need some tires for my truck. Can you recommend someone?
Yes, I can. We do that.
No, I mean, I need them installed and balanced and all that.
Yep, we do that.
Well, my son needed his windows tinted.
Yep, we do that.
I need
too.
my seat replaced.
Yep, we do that too.
I need a new roof line, and a new spoiler, and a new trunk.
We can even do that too.
Okay, I get it. I suppose you can also do a radio show too, huh?
Well, as a matter of fact, join me every Monday at 10 for auto repair with personal care here on The Source.
Of course you do.
Good credits, bad credits. It's none of our business because we're not an auto dealer. We're not a bank. We're not your mother. We're OcalaForSale.com. Marion County's marketplace for cars, trucks, and SUVs. We've got thousands of sellers standing by to take your call. No middleman. But hurry, don't walk, don't run. Just sit down and log on to OcalaForSale.com. Prices and inventory change daily. Offer does not include dealer upcharge. Undercutting, rust-proofing, factory surcharge, or delivery fee. See website for details.
Do you have areas that have started sagging or drooping? Is what you're looking at not quite the same as it was years ago? Are there enhancements you've been putting off? Is there serious damage you need fixed? Then call on us, Damage Control Services, when your roof is sagging and the drywall is drooping after a storm, or your home just needs some enhancements. From damage repairs to new construction, Damage Control Services is here to help.
We are The Source, WOCA, news, talk, sports, and more.
18 minutes after 11 o'clock. Thank you for tuning in and for sticking with us through the break. Dr. Kathleen Sales is on the phone up in Tennessee. What'd she say, Knoxville?
Yes, Knoxville.
Outside Knoxville.
Outside Knoxville. Dr. Sales is a retired psychiatrist with 40 years experience treating PTSD, as well as other things. She worked with Marines returning home from Vietnam, and her book is called Attack from Within. It's actually a novel, but it does cover the PTSD topic. The book is a sequel to Saving Superman, which she was on talking about once before with us.
Yes, wonderful book.
So if two people, let's see, how do I ask this question? Let's say a young man is in an airplane, and his mom is at the airport, and she's watching the airplane take off, and the airplane crashes, and he gets out fine, but there was fire and there was some deaths, and he's fine. Is it possible that she, witnessing the crash, could have a worse case of PTSD than he who was actually in it?
Well, it varies a lot from person to person and how they perceive it. And also it varies with what happens right after the trauma. I mean, if right after the trauma, she's in a very supportive, position, her husband comes and soothes her, her son comes and soothes her, everybody gets her calmed down, she'll be okay. But if after the trauma, it's a long time before she finds out he's safe, and she's gone through this whole scenario in her brain where how she's going to have to bury her son and all of this, then she's more apt to be in trouble, because the longer your sympathetic nervous system stays on high alert, the higher risk you have of developing post-traumatic stress disorder.
And I think that's part of what, at least maybe for me, it's new to understand this, but for me, understanding what PTSD is and that it's not just a combat-related condition. It could be anything.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, now I think that the soldiers are at special risk, of course, not only because they're in so much danger, but because they go back for so many different deployments, that they keep putting themselves back into the high-stress situations. But you also see PTSD among policemen and firefighters and people who are in stressful, job situations. And
So in your work as a psychiatrist, you've probably seen some patterns, and I'm wondering if those patterns were then used for the character Pete?
Oh, yeah. Well, he followed the same mistakes that I've seen as so many of my compatriots, Vietnam vets, follow, in avoiding the people who actually probably were most supportive to him, and putting himself back into kind of unconsciously putting himself back into a very dangerous situation, which he doesn't leave right away.
When you have Pete going through his therapy, he needs to find someone that he can absolutely trust, and that was an adventure in itself.
Yeah, well, he goes to the VA, and they tell him he doesn't have any indication that he had anything stress-related. It wasn't on his papers, so he can't even get therapy there. And that happened to a fair number of Vietnam vets. They're just starting to actually fix that problem.
Really?
Yeah. If they had less than general discharges, and if they didn't have PTSD written into the reason for the discharge, they might not be able to get any benefits for that.
We had a couple in the studio, and he was a Korean War veteran, and he had gone for treatment for PTSD, and his wife was on the air. They were both on the air to tell about the big, huge difference it made. He was reluctant. He was reluctant to admit that he had anything wrong. She probably, I'm guessing, she was probably trying to tell him to go get help, for years and years and years. And refused to, maybe even denying that he had anything going on. But anyway, they both had agreed that once he went for the treatment, it made all the difference in the world, and she swore up and down that he was a much nicer, easier to live with person.
And that's what I've observed. And treatment does work. Now, the medications that they use most commonly, which is an alpha blocker to block the sympathetic nervous system, let people sleep and reduce their nightmares, and an antidepressant to activate the part of the cortex that controls the amygdala. The amygdala produces all those negative emotions, and to get that under control is really important. So the antidepressants help there. Those two are very helpful. But for some reason, the VA wants to pour on a whole pile more drugs, which probably are completely unnecessary, because you can't treat flashbacks and traumatic memories with medicine. You have to go and do exposure therapy. And that's been shown to be very helpful. Exposure therapy.
Yeah, help us understand what that is. What is exposure therapy?
Okay. Well, there's a whole bunch of different kinds. It's a process of going back through the memories that were laid down under trauma and the ones that keep popping up in flashbacks and nightmares, and going through them in detail. But it's very hard to do until you've got the sympathetic nervous system under control, because you may just trigger you back into a flashback again. My favorite is EMDR, eye movement desensitization and restructuring. A, because it works quite well, and B, because you can do it in such small stages that it's much easier for people with bad flashbacks to tolerate than the older forms of exposure therapy.
Oh, really? I would love to know more about that, the eye movement thing, yeah.
Well, when we sleep, there's REM, rapid eye movement sleep.
Yeah.
You're familiar, and that's when we kind of process our day's memories and put them into a neat form in our brain where we can recall them. So they basically are copying a mechanism that already exists in our brain and using it to help us process these traumatic memories.
Oh, wow. Gosh.
Sometimes people are very careful as to who they choose to tell their feelings to, because sometimes the person they want to tell their feelings to, they had never been a soldier, they had never gone through that experience before, because they feel like, well, they're never going to understand, so why should I open up to anybody about this? How do you, like Pete, get their minds changed to have somebody help you?
Well, I think, first of all, it helps for the person who's going to be working with veterans to read something like my books, where you see what PTSD looks like from the inside and get an understanding of how it feels, so you can be compassionate with the reactions that your client is going to have. And the other thing, I think, is if the person also has, the Vietnam vet groups were very helpful. If you can talk to someone else who has actually been there. Pete and his father can talk to Jake in Saving Superman, because Jake is also a veteran. He knows. He has PTSD. He knows what's going on. In Attack from Within, Pete runs into a psychologist who's actually a survivor of the death camps in Germany. And so he has a very good idea of what's going on and really can see into Pete's problems.
Did you name him Pete because of PT? Was there?
Oh, I think he went through several names before we chose one.
Oh, okay. One of the things I wondered about are the people who, I'm not making fun, but the people who question it. There are a lot of people who question things.
Yeah.
They'll question ADHD. They'll question all those the initials of the conditions that people that you maybe never heard about once upon a time. We used to call it shell shock, and
Oh, it's had a million names.
And battle fatigue.
You got to realize PTSD is as old as mankind. Ever since we've been fighting wars or nearly getting killed by hunt or whatever, we've had PTSD because it's how our brain reacts to stress.
Does the person who commits the crime, like you, I'm going back in time and I'm thinking Abel and Cain, one of them must have had it. I always forget who killed who. Who killed who, Robin? Abel killed Cain?
Cain killed Abel.
Cain killed Abel. So he's the murderer. Would he have PTSD from that point forward?
Well, I don't know.
But it could, right? Somebody who
I'm not sure. I'm not sure that murderers they may be operating off of PTSD, but whether that causes them actually murdering someone causes them PTSD is an interesting question. I don't know the answer to it.
Well, PTSD isn't preventable, though, because, like you say, it comes along with something horrendous that happens.
Well, actually, it is. As I said, so much depends on what happens right after the event.
Yeah, that is fascinating, too.
Yeah, if the person's able to get their sympathetic nervous system calmed down, whether it's environmental effect, putting them in a safe place with safe people and meeting all of their physical needs so they can really settle, or whether you give them something like propranolol, which is a beta blocker, which can block the sympathetic nervous system and settle them down. You can greatly reduce the incidence of PTSD.
So you're making me wonder something, and this is maybe out of left field, but when the police department has a teddy bear in the car, whenever there's a child in an accident, they'll give the child the teddy bear. Is that in a way intervention to prevent PTSD for that child?
Yes, well, it certainly helps calm the child, and yes. I think it's very important to protect our children because their brains are fragile. They're still growing. And if you traumatize a child, you set them up for having PTSD in the future.
One of the things I love about what the book is doing, in addition to telling a story, is it is giving us a way to, if you don't already know somebody with PTSD, getting to know them not just from the outside, but from the inside. And I know you mentioned that already. I have a copy of the book. It's called Attack from Within. If you would like the copy that Kathleen sent us, you call me right now and you can have the copy that was sent to us, 622-9622. The rest of us have to go buy it. Kathleen or Dr. Sales, do you have a website we can go to?
Well, you can just get it on Amazon,
Just go to Amazon. It's easy enough, right? I thought you had a website, though.
I do. KathleenSales.com has the books on it, but I also have a website for my blog where I covered treatment of PTSD.
Okay.
And that's PTSDupdate.com. So anyone who's more curious about what's actually you can do about PTSD or the symptoms, go to PTSDupdate.com. It
Okay.
has its own Facebook page, and that's been very popular.
Oh, okay, great.
Under the same.
Well, thank you for being with us and good information. And have a great Veterans Day tomorrow. I think you're contributing greatly to our vets. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
We'll take a little break. We'll be right back.
Fox News Radio, I'm Pat O'Neill. It's the first big snowfall of the season. The upper Midwest getting a blast of cold with at least a foot of snow forecast.
It's part of a system being pushed by the remnants of Typhoon Nuri that hit Alaska's Aleutian Islands with hurricane-strength winds over the weekend. Some places could see a 40-degree temperature drop in a single day.
Fox Radio's Tanya J. Powers. Life getting back to normal for American missionary Kenneth Bay, one of two Americans released late last week by North Korea. His sister Terry says he's in good spirits.
He's a storyteller to begin with. I mean, that's what he does. He holds court and he just regales people with like funny stories. So you could tell he was so hungry for that. I mean, as you can imagine, he was cut off from all of that for 2 years.
American Matthew Miller, who had been accused of espionage, also released. The U.S. Postal Service says it has been hacked and that employee information may have been compromised. Fox News. We report, you decide.
Geico presents Fan Mail to a Pig.
Dear Maxwell, first off, I really enjoy your commercials about Geico's app. I watch them over and over and over. They make me both laugh and very hungry. Weird. Anyway, I just want to let you know how Geico's new claim status updates on the app really blow me away. Getting those updates makes me think of you. I'd like to thank you in person. Just send me your address. All the best, Big Bad W. Sure thing, Big Bad W. I got a pen. It's 802 Not Gonna Happen Lane.
Claim status updates just a tap away on the Geico app.
Okay, the Atlanta trip. I have the rental car receipt, but no proof that I actually flew there. I have 2 breakfast receipts, but no dinners, and apparently I slept in the lobby because I have nothing from the hotel.
Traveling for work is work enough. Concur makes it easy. Your business travelers take pictures of receipts and submit expense reports from their smartphones. With Concur, they get to throw away the receipts, you get to rule the budget, and everyone goes home happy. Test drive it free at tryconcur.com.
Looking for a breath of fresh air in assisted living? Camelot Chateau provides compassionate resident care, 3 excellent chef-prepared meals a day, and an engaging activities program ensuring a more fulfilling life. With Camelot's reasonable rates, you can afford to give yourself a break from cooking, housekeeping, and laundry, and have a breath of fresh air. Camelot Chateau is close to shopping, restaurants, and that all-important health care. Call 629-6077 to schedule a visit. Proud supporter of the Alzheimer's Association.
Dad's service to our country is something we're all proud of. He made a difference and set a great example. Now it's our turn to honor the sacrifices he made for our family and his country. As Veterans Funeral Specialist, Hyers-Baxley Funeral Services helped us celebrate Dad's life, and they can help you too. Hyers-Baxley is here for you during your time of need or when planning for the future. For more information, call 352-484-0891 or visit hyers-baxley.com/choice.
Here's what you may have missed on the John Tesh Radio Show.
The apple peels, they contain a compound called ursolic acid that increases our metabolism, which means an apple a day can definitely help keep the pounds away. Models and doctors do date, but the person you meet online claiming to be one probably is not. It's the most common internet lie. Fashion experts believe the fragrance oil trend is here to stay because sales of traditional spray-on perfumes are disappearing into thin air.
Intelligence for your life on the John Tesh Radio Show. Don't miss this stuff.
Real estate is the largest and most personal investment that any of us will make. Tuesday, November 11th at 10 a.m., Bob Kennedy, broker and owner of Berkshire Hathaway Home Services Home Team Realty, will be answering your questions and discussing short sales and bank-owned homes. So tune in at 10 Tuesday and call 622-9622 with your questions. It pays to be an informed buyer or seller. This is news you can use from Home Team Realty and WOCA.
It's a great week at Bob Wine's Camellia Gardens, where they're getting ready for Christmas right now. Your favorite, those famous Bob Wine's Christmas cactus, are now arriving. They're budded and blooming and wrapped in beautiful foil, just $3.99. Bob's got a super buy on boxwood, just $2.99. And of course, Bob Wine's famous camellias. You can buy these for only $5 or $10. And hey, you get a free tomato plant or a pepper plant with any purchase. Like a tree, Bob has large large trees up to 8 feet, still only $49.99. And veterans, this week, you get an extra 10% off as our thanks for your service. Bob Wine's gift certificates, perfect for giving. They earn you up to $75 in gifts for yourself, free. Open daily till 4, Saturdays till 2. Bob Wine's is truly having a great week. Bob Wine's on Southeast 38th Street, Ocala. Proudly locally grown, family owned since 1952.
Here are today's headlines from the source, WOCA. The Florida Highway Patrol is reporting that a 52-year-old man died from injuries sustained when a bus hit him on South Pine Avenue early Saturday morning. The man is identified in the report as Charles Davis Jr. According to the report, Davis was arguing with staff at Body Shots Gentlemen's Club at 3750 South Pine Avenue. Davis was reportedly walking backwards as staff walked toward him. Witnesses said Davis ignored at least one staff member's warning to get out of the road, and a 2012 Prio bus driven by Robert L. Reitenauer, 77 years old, of the Villages, hit Davis as it traveled in the outside lane heading southbound on US 441. Marion County Fire Rescue officials were called to the scene, and Davis was pronounced dead. Reitenauer, who was wearing a seatbelt, was not injured in the crash. Davis's death is the 43rd traffic fatality on Ocala Marion County roads in 2014. The Ocala Police Department is reporting the arrest of a 20-year-old man after he crashed a stolen car into a telephone pole and a fire hydrant. The man is identified as Carl McLeod. According to the report, McLeod stole a 2010 Ford Fusion earlier in the day. An officer on patrol saw McLeod driving erratically and tried to pull him over. McLeod stopped to let out a passenger and then sped away. Police chased McLeod, who flew through neighborhoods in southwest Ocala before running a red light and crashing into the fire hydrant and the telephone pole, causing half a dozen homes to lose power. The Marion County Sheriff's Office has McLeod in custody. He has been charged with grand theft. A Florida mother is home and tending to her new infant less than a month after surviving without a pulse for 45 minutes following complications from a routine cesarean section. A spokesman for Boca Raton Regional Hospital told the Associated Press yesterday that a team of medical workers spent 3 hours attempting to revive the woman after a rare amniotic fluid embolism. Spokesman Thomas Jakurda says the doctors were preparing to pronounce her death when a blip on a monitor indicated a heart